All right, let's bring back Antony Loewenstein in Sydney. Antony, thanks for staying with us. Antony is a journalist and the author of The Palestine Laboratory, a book on Israel's arms and surveillance industry. So, Antony, I want to talk to you now about what's happening in the occupied West Bank. The situation there gets worse every day. You have the raids by Israel's military on refugee camps in areas like Jenin and Tulkarem and other areas. But beyond that, you also have these worsening settler attacks, these demolitions of houses. Where do you see all of this going? And what's the connection between Israel's actions in Gaza and the occupied West Bank?
I mean, the short, tragic picture that I see, and I was in the West Bank most recently in the second half of last year, and I saw some of this myself up close, as obviously Al Jazeera has been reporting this too, is that without outside pressure, there's going to be a Gaza-ification of the West Bank. I'm not suggesting it's going to be the same, but what we're seeing really is when people talk about growing settler violence, you speak to any Palestinian, yes, it's got worse in the last 21 months since October 7. That's undeniably true. It's just been going on for years, and there's a real repetition here. Netanyahu now and then comes out and says we're very concerned about settler violence. Some Shin Bet leader says the same thing. Some Israeli politicians, I saw even the far-right ministers this week in Israel, Smotrich and Ben-Gvir, even they were concerned, so they said, about settler violence. It's all a ruse, because ultimately the settlers are not just emboldened, they're working with soldiers, the Israeli soldiers, and people might not realise this, but when one sees on TV or online the idea that somehow settlers are doing something and soldiers get in the middle between themselves and Palestinians. In fact, what the soldiers 99.9% of the time are doing are either standing back while settlers abuse, kill, destroy Palestinian life or infrastructure or farms or olive trees, or for that matter, they are assisting. They're actually helping settlers do this work because there's been a growing radicalisation within the IDF. The soldiers were hardly ever progressive liberals decades ago in the IDF. That's not true at all. But in the last couple of decades, there's been a real shift in the radicalisation of some of those soldiers, many of those soldiers who are coming from the West Bank. Some of those are operating in Gaza, of course, many of them now in the West Bank. And when people talk about Israel's threat of annexing the West Bank, I mean, let's be frank, it's annexed. It might not be done officially, but realistically, it's been annexed. And the fear is, I think, or the aim of the Israeli state and the Israeli military is to make life so unbearable for Palestinians in the West Bank that some or many of them choose to leave. Now, go where is the obvious question. I don't know where. It's like Gazans. Many of them might want to leave because nothing is left, but where? And ultimately, I think, yes, many Palestinians have said for decades, we will not go. I have many friends, Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza, who have said for as long as I've known them, for 20 years, we will not leave our land. However, if you have a family, if you have young kids and your life is unbearable, you can't not understand the desire for safety. And that is not happening in the West Bank. And I fear that will not change in the coming years ahead.
Antony Loewenstein, thanks so much for joining us here on Al Jazeera. Great to get your perspective.
Thank you.